all know that it is the worst hidden secret that De'Aaron Fox just had arguably the worst series of his career in the NBA Finals. He played his worst basketball on the biggest stage, and it feels a bit amplified, and now there's a lot of slander that's coming in. I've defended him all season, but I wasn't able to. The Spurs needed him to be better. It's plain and simple. They needed him to be better. And now there's a lot of chatter about the Spurs should trade him. It's time to move on, that Dylan Harper is the franchise point guard, and that they're not going to get anywhere without starting him, and that Fox has the worst contract in the league. But listen, De'Aaron Fox isn't going anywhere. He's not. The Spurs are not going to move on from him, and it's that simple. We're about to take a deep dive into where De'Aaron Fox's next steps lie and how he can rejuvenate himself next season. And before we get into all of that, make sure you hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on the post notification bell so you never miss a video here on Ty Talks Sports. Let's look back at the trade that sent De'Aaron Fox to the San Antonio Spurs. They basically got him for pennies on the dollar by sending Tre Jones, Zach Collins, C.D. Sissoko, and 3 first-round picks, 2 of which that had protections, and all 3 the Spurs did not own to the Chicago Bulls and the Sacramento Kings. This was a 3-team deal, let's not forget, to acquire De'Aaron Fox, and the Bulls sent over Zach LaVine as a part of this deal as well. The Bulls got their first-round pick back. The Kings got a Minnesota first-round pick and then a Hornets first-round pick that didn't convey. Point is, the Spurs traded basically nothing to get him because Zach Collins hasn't done anything since arriving to Chicago. Tre Jones was a solid piece for them this year. I'll give him that. But the Spurs were able to fleece the Sacramento Kings. A 10 out of 10 move by Brian Wright. And then in the last offseason, they gave him that huge $229 million contract. But let's look at his role. Right now, fans want De'Aaron Fox to be a scoring machine. And that's what they thought they were getting. They thought they were getting this elite drive tempo scorer who could get downhill at will. No one could virtually guard this guy. That's what the Spurs fans thought they were getting. They thought they were getting someone who could go get 40 on any given night because that's what he was doing with the Kings. He struck fear into the hearts of fans while he was with the Sacramento Kings. He was that good. He was that guy. But now he's in a bit of a different situation. He is meant on the Spurs to be a playmaker, a facilitator, someone who makes everyone around him better. But let's be honest, De'Aaron Fox has never been that. He has never been a facilitator or someone who makes everyone else better. Sure, he's not going to try and make everyone worse, but he's never been the guy to be a playmaker and a designated one. He's always been someone who looks to get his own shot, who looks to get a bucket, someone that you could rely on in the fourth quarter. Fox isn't in that role anymore. He's in a different role, and guess what that is? That's a coaching issue. That falls on Mitch Johnson. Mitch Johnson is failing De'Aaron Fox, and by default, it fails the rest of the team because Fox is not put in a position to succeed. He's simply not. And that's the big issue. De'Aaron Fox is in a completely different role than he was in Sacramento, and it's a role he's not accustomed to. And that's why he's struggling. Like I said, this was someone who took prime Steph Curry to 7 games. Maybe not to peak of the prime Steph Curry, but he took second prime Steph Curry to 7 games alone. Really, Sabonis wasn't good that series. Keegan Murray disappeared as well. De'Aaron Fox went band for band with Steph Curry for 7 games because that's what he was capable of doing. The Spurs traded for this guy in the middle of his prime, and then they stopped having him do everything that made him so good. They stopped letting him get downhill in transition. They stopped letting him go to work with the ball in his hands in isolation because De'Aaron Fox was a great isolation scorer too. They didn't turn to him in closing games. Everything that made him so good in Sacramento, they weren't doing with him in San Antonio, and that's why he struggled. Now, a lot of that comes down to the fact because they traded for him and they value the development of Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper more. That's not a bad thing. But now you're asking De'Aaron Fox to be a role player after paying him $229 million. That's not role player money. He's going to be making $61 million at the end of his contract. That is not role player money, and the Spurs and Mitch Johnson are asking De'Aaron Fox to be a role player. They are, and that's why fans are mad. because De'Aaron Fox is making all this money to go average 17 points and 6 assists. That's not worth $61 million. It's worth a team-friendly deal. And the Spurs are paying him the largest contract in franchise history, which will obviously soon be dethroned when Wemby gets his extension later this summer. But the Spurs are paying him so much money to be a role player, and that is why fans are upset. If he was making less money, there probably wouldn't be as much of a discussion. There still would be, considering how he played in the finals, but it wouldn't be this bad. But that's the big reason, is that he's making all this money to give you a solid 17 points and 6 assists on not good splits either. This was not an efficient year for Fox. But coaching schematics have killed De'Aaron Fox. They're forcing him to just stand in the corner and shoot threes when the ball comes to his hands. He's not doing a lot of driving downhill. He's not allowed to get in the open court with the ball in his hands and show off his speed, because we all know De'Aaron Fox is one of the fastest players to ever touch a basketball, and that's why he was so good, because his speed made him unguardable. They're not letting him do that. If the Spurs want to find the version of De'Aaron Fox that fans want, including myself, Mitch Johnson has to give him more opportunities to be a scorer. He has to be given the ball more. He has to be allowed to go to work in the pick and roll and fight for a bucket downhill. Go to the free throw line, worst case scenario. He has to. He can't just be motionless, because De'Aaron Fox is not good as a motionless player, as we've all now seen. When you watch De'Aaron Fox in the Sacramento Kings versus the San Antonio Spurs, the big difference is he's not getting the ball in the open court. He's not. He's not able to go to work, and he did in Sacramento because Mike Brown had that trust in him. It's not there anymore. They're focused on other things. And I get it. There's a lot of reasons to be investing in the development of Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper. But if the Spurs don't give De'Aaron Fox the room to work, this is not going to work out. They're going to try and trade him, and he has an untradeable contract, because that's just where we are right now. He's got to be given more opportunities. And I can hear the comments now of, but Ty, Dylan Harper is the future. He's already better. He proved it in the finals. Stephon Castle is better. Trade Fox and start building in the investments of your young big three. I get it. Those three are going to be around for a long time. But don't trade Fox. Don't. Because this is a good problem to have for the San Antonio Spurs when you have the guard tandem of Fox, Castle, and Harper. That is the best guard rotation in the league. And it's not even close. People want to talk about the comment that Devin Vassell made after Game 5 of how Dylan Harper was unhappy with his role throughout the season and playing time. I get it. Dylan Harper deserved to have more minutes in the finals. Even if he didn't have more than Fox, he deserved to be playing 35 to 40 a game, because he was easily the Spurs' best player in all 5 games, and I mentioned that. And a lot of it comes from the early season when he wasn't getting a lot of playing time and his role really wasn't defined. Now, there are some fans who see this and they think that it means you should immediately just trade Fox. Oh, Dylan Harper is mad. You need to trade Fox right now, because if you don't trade Fox now, Harper's going to leave. But the Spurs are fully capable of playing Fox, Castle, and Harper all together in the same starting lineup. And all 3 of them deserve to start. They absolutely do. Obviously, NBA politics aside, Fox is a 2-time All-Star. And then adding politics, you're not going to bench someone who's making $50 million. It's how the league works. And Dylan Harper definitely deserves to be starting. And Stephon Castle deserves to be starting. None of those 3 deserve to come off the bench, because they're all that talented. But the way that you make this lineup work is by making Stephon Castle a wing. Because most Spurs fans know Castle's not a point guard. He's a great playmaker, but he's not an initiator, not a point guard. There are 2 big differences between an initiator and a point guard. Or an initiator and a playmaker. I'm sorry. Castle is an amazing playmaker, easily the best lob passer on the team, but he's not an initiator. When De'Aaron Fox had minimal opportunities to initiate the offense, things were working. He was going, the team was flowing, the offense was flowing because it wasn't getting still. De'Aaron played his best basketball of the season during that November-December stretch when Stephon Castle missed like 9 games with a hip flexor injury. You want to know why? because Fox was put in a role to score. Fox was put in a role to initiate the offense. That's why he was thriving, because he was in a role that he succeeded in for so long once again. And that's why it worked, because he was in a role he was used to. And the writing is on the wall from that stretch of games right there. Fox needs to be the initiator. Castle's just not a good one. He still processes the floor a lot. He gets stuck and stagnant when he can't blow by that first defender. A lot of shot clock is wasted, and then the Spurs have to settle for a quick three, an inefficient look. Sometimes it just doesn't work. But you know what I would do? I would put Stephon Castle on the wing. Lock him up in a gym all summer, and don't let him out until he's a 38 to 40% three-point shooter. Throughout the season, his three-point progression slowly increased, and then he became reliable. He really became a reliable three-point shooter. Still not the greatest, but every time he shot a three, it wasn't like, oh, that's a bad shot, Castle can't shoot. He grew as the season progressed, and now he has an offseason to continue that progression. And if the Spurs want to make that three-guard lineup work, you have to move Castle to the three. And guess what? He has the frame to do it. 6'6", 215 pounds, he can do it. And if you still want to use Castle as an initiator, then give him those runs when Fox and Harper are off the court. There's plenty of opportunities, and it benefits everyone if you move Castle to the wing, because you can put Dylan Harper in the starting 2 spot, and he's proven he can play off ball next to De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle at times, and it gets Castle out of the initiator role while Fox still stays in the starting lineup. Everyone is happy. There's no controversy with that lineup. Sure, it's a little smaller. You're going to move Devin Vassell to the bench because he's 6'5". You don't want to put him at power forward. Do you leave Champagnie there? Do you go get a power forward and then bring Vassell and Champagnie off the bench? I doubt that. I highly doubt that. But it definitely springs up some questions of what you want to do at the power forward position, but we're not worried about right now. We're worried about Fox, Castle, and Harper. So to keep it straightforward with you, De'Aaron Fox is not leaving. He's not. Brian Wienhorst on ESPN SportsCenter said earlier this week, I know there's a lot of interest in whether they might do something with De'Aaron Fox, but they are committed to him right now as their franchise point guard, and I think they will remain that way. People are trying to say that Fox and his wife unfollowed the Spurs on Instagram. They never followed them to begin with. It's not that deep. People are trying to make this something out of nothing when there's nothing there. To the De'Aaron Fox haters, he's not going anywhere. This offseason is arguably the biggest of his life, and it's going to be the longest, because a lot of motivation will come into it with playing how he did in the finals. But most importantly, he's finally going to be healthy. And maybe for the first time as a Spur, because when they traded for him, he had that broken finger, and then he got season-ending surgery not long after that. And then when he finally got done recovering from the finger, he had a huge hamstring injury, I think in July, late July, and he missed games early in the season. Takes away a lot of explosiveness from a guy who's known as an explosive guard to have a huge hamstring injury. He had a pretty relatively healthy season, but most importantly, and then in Game 6 of the Western Conference semifinals versus Minnesota, Fox tweaked his ankle after already suffering an ankle injury in Game 4 when Ayo Dosunmu dived for a loose ball rebound, and he was hurt. But he fought through it because he had to, and because that was the game Wemby decided to elbow Naz Reid. So Fox had to stay out there, and he fought through it. But remember, he missed the first 2 games of the Western Conference Finals, and he was questionable for Games 3 and 4, but pushed through it. And Mitch Johnson said that he was hobbling, and it wasn't ever going to get better as long as he kept playing on it. A high ankle sprain is a 6-week recovery time. De'Aaron Fox did not have 6 weeks to recover. He had to go through the NBA Finals. And that's probably a big reason why he wasn't as explosive and looking for his shots around the basket and looking to get downhill. Because it's hard to get downhill when your ankle is killing you. So I get it. I understand. But I expect Fox to come back and have the best, maybe not the best, but one of the best seasons of his career. And I hope he's put in a position to succeed, because that's really all what it's going to depend on. However, it's going to be a long offseason for De'Aaron Fox. That's for sure. But to keep up with all the Spurs off-season news, make sure you like this video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that post notification bell so you never miss when I upload a video here. What do you guys think is going to happen with De'Aaron Fox? Let me know in the comments below so we can start a conversation. And until next time, this is Ty Talk Sports signing off, and I will see you all next time.